And welcome back to another episode of Highly Debated. It is me, your host, Rusty, and hit him with the shot. There you have it, there you have it. I haven't been more excited to hit a fucking joint than the Bilal Muhammad pack. Congratulations to JDM. Congratulations to everyone who is a UFC fan. We no longer have to see decisions after decisions for champions. So here we are. Bilal is no longer the champ. I don't remember his name.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
And JDM is the new champ who is taking us to the promised land and now going to be facing Islam Makhachev, which we're pretty much going to be talking about. Is JDM a dark horse for the pound for pound list, or was the win against Bilal just a fluke? And how much does that win mean for his stock and for, his career? And then we'll also be going over Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Is that a real fight or not? I'm going to give you my opinions. I want to hear yours. Remember that this is a conversation. So remember to leave a comment down below and like and subscribe so I can keep making videos like this, or don't really matter. But let's start off with JDM beating Bilal Muhammad. I thought JDM looked really good. I'm not going to be going over exactly what happened into the fight because other channels have done that way better than I can do. But what I really want to go over is just how good did JDM look and how does that set him up for the fight coming up against Islam, and does that mean that he would be a good candidate to be a dark horse in the pound for pound list? Because at this moment, I think as a champion, he has a good opportunity to break into that list, and if he dethrones the number one pound for pound fighter, who is also vacating his belt to move up and challenge him, I think will really add to his stock in a way where we could see him rise maybe up to 3, maybe up to 5, just beating a guy like Islam, depending on the way he beats them and depending on how the fight unfolds. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I would say that his win against Bilal is a very good primer fight. So pretty much the expression I'm going for is that the fight was kind of used to prime the pump. Prime the pump means you put a little bit of oil in there before you start the car up, right? Some of you guys might know this, but it was kind of similar here. I would argue that between challenges, who would be a bigger challenge, right, to anyone, would be, if you weighed them out equally, Islam or Bilal, right? I know Bilal's style, which is heavy wrestling, high intensity, is really tough to beat regardless of who that fighter is. If you just have a heavy wrestling style that never stops coming, like Bilal, Marab, Sean Brady, it's kind of how Gilbert Burns has done it before, Kamzat, that type of style is very wearing on fighters and usually gets you really good results if you execute it correctly. And I don't know if there was a better matchup for JDM as a warm-up fight, although it was hell of a warm-up fight, like Bilal versus JDM. The reason I say that is because the Islam fight, we all know Islam has a great grappling game, a great wrestling game, a great takedown game. That's literally what they're known for. And Islam himself has become a better striker as he has come on to the later part of his career. However, JDM showed that he can handle wrestling pressure and he has techniques and game plans that could keep wrestlers at bay. I don't think a guy like Islam will necessarily wait till the 4th round like Bilal did. But I think he will wait maybe 1 or 2 rounds and maybe a little more depending on how JDM executes his game plans. And what I mean by that is that in this fight, we saw how not only did he have good takedown defense, but he was also very good at not allowing a position to finish, right? So there was one point where Bilal mounted him, and then I was kind of worried for him, but then, Jack was able to make a little bit of space, explode through that, stand up, and I think that ability to never take a position, whether it's on the ground, against the cage, whatever it is. He always wants to be the one deciding whether or not the fight continues against the cage, on the ground, regardless what it is. He has that ability to always come out on top on the next decision after another. And I think that's a skill that against Belal is a very good skill, because he was able to not only shake off some of those takedown attempts, but he was also able to discourage Belal to even try to come in for a takedown defense by just having a good jab, good power, keeping him at bay. And I think that's really like the fight you want to have before you fight a guy like Islam, because now we know that he can defend a takedown. Now we know that he will not take a position on the ground. Now we know that he will keep his back away from the cage when he fights Islam. So I think that for Jack, this is one of the best fights that you can have prior to having Islam, and to pass it in such a manner that he did, pretty much dominating Belal other than maybe 2 rounds. I would say that, and not in an overwhelming manner. It was a competitive fight, but JDM was never truly in trouble. It was him deciding everything. And we've never seen that against a guy fight him. We've never seen that against a guy like Belal, and particularly Belal. He was the one always dictating the pace of the fight. Jack was really good at slowing down. So kudos to him on that win. But it leads me to believe that this guy has a higher ceiling than what people are actually giving him credit for. So I know I might be jumping the gun here, but I think he has a really good opportunity to become a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter in the next year. Even a loss against Islam Makhachev, I think, if he takes Islam to 5 rounds and it's a split decision for Islam, that's still a win for JDM, who, 3-2, even 2 years ago, no one really knew his name. And right now he's about to fight one of the marquee fighters of the UFC for, pretty much dude's second belt. He vacated the belt, moves up. So here we are, JDM versus Islam. And I think if he wins this fight and he fights in a similar style that he fought Belal, I think it's a lot more competitive than people realize, just because of the size. Jack's a very big guy, even for his weight class. I don't think he's huge, but he's on the larger end. He's not small or average. And he has an athletic ability that you don't see in a lot of other fighters. Volkanovski is also very athletic, and Jack is also athletic in a very different way. He likes to have a lot of head movement and then pivot off that head movement and counterpunch. I don't know how much he could do that against a guy like Islam, just because of the knockout he has on Volk. He caught Volk kind of trying to duck, even just a little bit, and he caught him. Given Volk's a lot smaller, and he also doesn't have the head movement that Jack has. Volk's one of the all-time great, but his movement comes from coming in and out from range, right? For Jack, he's very good at staying at that mid-range. He's very good at staying at that punching range for himself, not for his opponent, but for himself, and then getting in and out, pivoting away from the cage. So I'm excited to see how he does. And I think that he showed us enough to, like a glimmer. I saw a glimmer that if he evolves as he has been continuing, because he's been getting better in every fight, right? And I think in the Belal one, he jumped levels. And then just because of Belal's a decision machine. It would be different if he knocked out Belal in the second round or something like that. There would still be a lot of questions. Given that they went 5 rounds and he was still able to finish hard in the 5th round, I have no question that he is not going to give up against Islam, but he will have to be having one of his best nights. And I think he's young enough, he has enough grit and determination to possibly have a good opportunity. In the case that he does win, I think, if he does win, you're beating the #1 pound-for-pound champion. And then from there, it's nothing but marquee matchups in his weight class. I don't know if he gets a rematch. Poirier's talking about being a 3-time champion. Bro hasn't even won the second belt. And it's like, dog, I don't know about all that. But I think that, give me a sec. I think that if he beats Islam, whether it's convincing or not, he cracks the top 10. He has to. Islam is considered a solid number one in most people's books outside of Dana White, because, you know. And I think that if JDM goes in there and beats Islam, he cracks the top 10, possibly even at number 5, just based on beating Burns while he was still decent, beating Bilal, and then beating Islam. That's Islam and Bilal alone should, you know, back to back. And then let's say I, like, theoretically speaking, he beat Bilal, beats Islam, then beats Shavkat. Bro, we're talking about this guy is like probably at 2 at that point. Because you're knocking down number 1, then someone in the top 5 for Shavkat, I would say, right? I mean, everyone considers him a menace. And then I would like to see him knock out Ian Gary. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Please knock out Ian Gary. We got to see that fight regardless. I would love to see that fight. But yeah, man, I think that's going to be a crazy fight. I think that's going to be a fight that it's going to really showcase the ceiling that I see in JDM. And I want to call out right now because really, I was thoroughly impressed with the way he handled himself in this fight, because it was high stakes. It was his biggest fight up to date, but he handled it. I mean, you can't do better than that. The only way you can do better than that is like you take no damage. But like, you know, I thought it was a good test. I thought it was a test, and he did receive damage, but it wasn't damage that's gonna hurt his career. And let's put this shit to bed about Canelo hands for fucking Bilal. Like, I can't stand dude. I really can't stand dude. The fact that they say he's from Chicago annoys me so much, bro. Like, it annoys me so much because, like, Chicago has real talent, and this guy's from the burbs. And just because, like, they want to make it easy on the audience and they want to sell Bilal. I don't know if they want to sell Bilal, but, like, bro, everyone knows who saw that embedded and all that stuff. He's not from Chicago. Please stop lying to people. I think he's from Bensonville. And I find dude hella boring, just like that suburb, just from whatever suburb he is. Anyone from Chicago will tell you this cat does not bring that Chicago energy. We wouldn't have lost to JDM like that, bruh. We would never. If you grew up in Chicago, I don't think anyone will let you go unchecked saying you have Canelo hands, bruh. Like, I don't know. Let's see what else I got in my notes for this one. But call me crazy, man. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Do you see the ceiling where I see it? Or do you think that JDM isn't really cut out to be any type of dark horse? Maybe he's like gonna be like Bilal, one-time champion. I don't think Bilal gets his belt back. That's for sure. Bilal's not getting that belt back. And I don't think JDM is a fluke. So there's that. Let's move on to Jake Paul versus Chavez. Where can I start? This would be Jake Paul's first time fighting a real fighter, would it not? Like a real boxer. I think this is the first time. I don't know if, like, this even counts though. Chavez Jr. is so washed, bro. So washed. And, like, dude has been in rehab a couple times. He's also been, like, he's been in rehab, like, for real, to where, like, Chavez has to come out and, like, you know, talk about the health of his kid and how he's not doing so great. And, like, that's who he is now. A couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, dude's been down and down bad to the point where I thought he was, I don't know, still gonna be in his addiction. When I saw him at the press conference, he looked the most sober I've seen him in a while, but who knows, maybe he just has a good coke plug now. But it's like, man, Chavez Sr., like, what are you thinking? Like, how many times this man gonna embarrass me, bro? Like, Chavez Jr. could have retired after the Martinez fight and then just, like, been decent. Your dad's already rich. You're rich. But that alone, he might even be, like, somehow inducted into the Hall of Fame and then get Hall of Fame showing up money. You know what I'm saying? It's not like this man really needs to fight. But I think as long as he has lived under the shadow of his dad and he can't let that go, he can't shake it off, he's still gonna continue to do shit like this so he can prove that he's different from his dad. And honestly, this wouldn't be a bad lane, like a locked-in Chavez Jr., bro. Let's say Chavez Jr. got on like some like real, like, what do you call it? Like some real exclusive designer Mexican juices that made him go in there in a vintage form and just knocks out Jake. Bro, he could set up a fight with Logan. He could set up a fight with KSI. This man could get incredibly wealthy, wealthier than his dad ever even imagined, or he imagined, if he was just able to knock this man out. And like, I don't know if he could do it. And again, we are in this position where I don't want to be talking about Jake Paul and being involved in boxing. I want him to start going to fight, like, just go fight KSI and then no one will have to talk about this. But he fights fighters who have enough credibility at one point in their career where it makes it worthwhile for me to make this video. So that's what you gotta hand it to him. He has like the best boxing career managerial skills probably outside of Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, can't deny that he picked his opponents at the perfect time. Although he is an all-time fighter, he didn't fight the majority of his fighters in their prime. I know, controversial, but I still consider him one of the best. But this guy is now fighting like the most washed fighter. Like, his dad is less washed than him. His dad has had his exhibitions where he has looked decent for like 4 or 5 rounds, bro. Better than Mike was doing, that's for damn sure. And he wasn't on all the steroids that Mike was. He wasn't out there breathing extra aggressively on microphones and shit. And here we are, son of a legend, about to embarrass his father for another time. Because if he gets knocked out, which, bro, he's been knocking out all these washed dudes. Chavez Jr. has a legendary chin. I'll give him that. Canelo couldn't even, like, make this man take a knee, bro. And Canelo hit him basically with everything he could. Go look at that fight, how hard he was swinging. But you gotta feel bad for Chavez Sr., bro. This man's one of the biggest legends in the sport, not only in the sport, but a huge icon outside of a sport athlete, celebrity in Mexico. And his son is about to fight a YouTuber who thinks he's a boxer, and he's about to lose. At least I think that. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Piper! Piper won't stop scratching, bro. Pipe! But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think he's so washed. There is no chance. Oh, Jesus Christ, this dog. But let me know what you think. Do you think that Jake Paul, I mean, I don't think if you watch this channel, you think Jake Paul is a real fighter. But do you think Chavez Jr. could pull it off? Like, this is what I hate about fights like this, bro. I don't want to watch this circus, but at the same time, it's like, how do you not watch this fucking like train wreck of entertainment? And I think that's what Jake Paul is. He is entertainment, but he flirts with the sport enough that you have to cover it. And I want to know whether you think this is even a real fight, because I don't even know if it's being sanctioned. But like, Chavez Jr. did fight some decent people. He did beat Martinez, although he was getting whooped the entire fight. And Martinez was also, like, technically speaking for boxing, was an old guy. Back in those ages, people were not fighting up to that age like he was. So he was the anomaly. But yeah, I don't think that Chavez Jr. is going to win that fight, bro. As crazy as that sounds. Yeah.